Coca-Cola, the drink invented 135 years ago, conquered the whole world and is considered the closest thing to capitalism in a bottle. Cuba and North Korea are the only two countries on the planet that don't sell Coca-Cola. There's no doubt that the American soft drink had an easy time establishing its empire around the world. But things were a little different in India. In this video, we'll see how it took Coca-Cola almost half a century to conquer India and why the attempt to dethrone a local brand resulted in a huge failure. In 1947, after India gained its independence, Coca-Cola wasted no time and within 3 years had already established itself in the Indian market. However, the communists played a key role in breaking free from British colonial rule, and the country's first governor was committed to leading the nation according to socialist ideals. And that meant strict regulations and support for domestic industry. In response to socialism, Coca-Cola adopted the strategy of embedding and integrating its drink into Indian culture before the government could intervene. After all, the government was more concerned with dealing with the consequences of becoming independent than with handling a mere foreign soft drink. So while India was suffering through its second bloody conflict with Pakistan in 1965, Coca was building its empire in the country, since Pepsi had left India in 1962 due to low sales. However, as India's socialist rise increased, the end of Coca-Cola's brief reign was drawing closer, and honestly, that happened quickly. In 1971, Indira Gandhi, the Prime Minister of India at the time, was being admired by the people after the victory in the Third War against Pakistan. But in 1974, just 3 years later, her image was soon tarnished. Because, despite her big promises, poverty did not end in the country. The pressure from strikes, protests, and calls for resignation on the Prime Minister increased so much that she declared a state of emergency in the country between 1975 and 1977. This was a dark period in India's history, marked by illegal arrests, bans on civil rights, and press censorship. And it was precisely during this period that Coca-Cola became the government's #1 enemy. The Minister of Industry, George Fernandes, wanted to expel it from there at any cost. He frequently used as an argument, 90% of villages in India don't have access to drinking water, while Coca-Cola reaches every village. And the final ultimatum? A series of regulations passed by Congress that basically required multinationals to hand over 60% of their assets in the country to local shareholders, and also the requirement for Coca-Cola to disclose its recipe to the government and produce it domestically. The outcome was inevitable. Coca-Cola and 56 other companies exited India in 1977. Obviously, Coca-Cola's failure in India doesn't lie in the fact that it had to leave the country because of a government requirement. And that's exactly what we're going to understand next. After Coca-Cola left with its huge portfolio, India was left with completely empty beverage aisles. Local producers then saw this as an opportunity to fill the market gap with new soft drinks. Double 7, named after the year 1977, was the official government-sanctioned substitute for Coca-Cola, but it ultimately failed and disappeared from the market in just 2 years. Indians wanted a worthy substitute for Coca-Cola right away, and then the success of local producers began to rise. Cola, Coca-Cola, Dux, and Double Cola all tried, but it was Thumbs Up that stood out. The creator of the drink, Ramesh Chauhan, developed the formula from scratch, combining ingredients like cinnamon, cardamom, and nutmeg. He introduced a bold new flavor, which had a slightly orange base and was more effervescent than its competitors. Its success was overwhelming, and it practically had a complete monopoly among cola-based soft drinks. In the early 80s, even with the economy practically closed after strict regulations, India was still a highly sought-after destination for multinationals because its vast population meant untapped customers capable of generating a lot of profit. Pepsi tried to propose a deal to the government in 1985 to sell its soda in the country, but that request was denied. But they didn't give up, not that easily. In 1988, Pepsi made a second proposal, one that couldn't be refused. And they gained access to India basically through lobbying with the government and state-owned companies. In 1991, the Soviet Union, one of India's financiers, collapsed. Burdened by debt and widespread poverty, India then found itself forced to approve a free market reform in order to attract new investments to the country. Coca-Cola returned to the market in 1993. And in order not to have to compete with Thumbs Up, the soft drink that held 85% of the market share, it bought Parley Company, which owned the Thumbs Up brand, for $40 million. However, being out of the Indian market for 16 years was costly, despite having entered first. Pepsi leveraged itself and was ahead of its main global competitor. But Coca had a good strategy. The idea was to bring its winning and already validated products from other countries into the Indian market and gradually eliminate other local brands. And that's exactly what they did, except with Thumbs Up, which refused to die. The American giant quickly killed off the brands Citra, Gold Spot, and Rinzin to introduce its own in their place. However, Coca failed in its attempt to kill Thumbs Up. Instead of treating the dominant brand as its flagship, since it had bought it. Recently, Coca used several strategies to kill Thumbs Up, like cutting the marketing budget, but the plan backfired. Coca found out that killing Thumbs Up was actually increasing Pepsi's sales, not Coca-Cola's, as expected. Obviously, after realizing this, the company's common sense prevailed. Thumbs Up survived Coca's attempt to take it down. The traditional soda was revived and continues to this day, being the most consumed cola drink in India. Ahead of the two multinational giants, the popularity of Thumbs Up is probably sustained by the specific regional tastes of India, which has a spicier cuisine that pairs perfectly with Thumbs Up, a cola drink that is stronger than its competitors. So, unlike most of the world, Thumbs Up holds the first place on the podium of cola drinks in India, followed by Pepsi in second place and Coca-Cola in third. Thumbs Up only loses in the overall ranking of soft drinks, which is led by the Sprite brand. As a cola soft drink, Coca-Cola clearly failed in India, having to settle for third place in the country. Coca-Cola as a company succeeded. After 16 years away from India, it returned by acquiring companies and launching its wide product range to Indian consumers, which as a result made the company have a 50% share of the beverage market. Pepsi came right behind with 19.6%. So what we can conclude is that the intense political persecution and overwhelming competition among cola soft drinks in India were not enough to topple Coca-Cola's power as a company. That's it, guys. This was the second video on the Visionary Intelligence channel. If you're new here and you like this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe. There's a lot of new content being prepared, and I hope I can count on your help for this project to grow. Leave your like. That way you really help the YouTube algorithm deliver this video to more people. See you in the next video.